Good afternoon or good morning, everyone. This is Adam Linneman here, the Green Executive, and Sarah with us, the Green Executive as well. We have special guest Mark Sedgley with us here today from Granum. Mark, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Obviously, very happy to be a part of the show.
Mark, so really we just wanted to kind of get some more background on yourself and Granum, LMN by Granum, and kind of hear where that's going within the next maybe 6 months and then in the next few years. And then just kind of get to know you a little bit more. And so we'd love to kind of dig into some of that if we can.
Sure. Happy to. Thank you.
So go ahead and tell us a little bit more about yourself. You've been in this position here with on the LMN side for just maybe about what, a year or so at this point in time?
Yep. 14 months. And then I was the CEO of SingleOps kind of singularly for about a year and a half. And so I guess I've been in the green industry. This is my third year. So I'm a relative rookie in comparison to most people that I meet. And I've been in software for most of my professional life. Um, long story short, like similar to a lot of folks that probably started in the industry, like I started off my very first kind of like job. I put a lawnmower in the back of my trunk and a weed whacker and a bungee cord to keep the trunk closed and went door to door and asked people if I could mow their yard. And, I think at that point I realized like, hey, I really enjoy kind of like doing my own thing, and that just stuck with me. Went to college, got the single most useless degree you could ever imagine for what I do, which was an English and East Asian philosophy major. So,
Hmm.
What was your
and it,
intention? What did you want to be when you grew up at the time?
my dad is a solo practitioner for as a lawyer, a general counsel, and Big Rick Sedgley, and he's like a dying breed. Do you need a will? He's your man. Do you need a divorce? He's your man. If you got caught shoplifting, he's your guy. Call Big Rick, And so he kind of does it all. And so I think I was thought in the back of my mind somewhere that I was going to go to law school and potentially take over his practice and kind of grow it into something a little bit more modern, for lack of better terms. But life kind of happens. And so I started work, helped start a school for English in Krakow, Poland, which is where my wife is from. I've been with my wife, Dorota, since I was 18. And we moved back to Poland. We didn't intend on moving back, but we went to go for her sister's wedding. And then the American government said, hey, she has this visa stipulation. She's got to serve out a 2 year kind of return to her home country thing. And so we ended up staying in,
Surprise.
yeah, exactly.
That's a big surprise.
That is a big one. And so we ended up staying in Krakow for about 2 years. I helped start a school for English there.
Oh,
And my partner and I, we built it from the ground up, literally. And we opened the school with about 300 students. And it was a really good business. And that's kind of where I got, I think, exposed to like all the ins and outs of starting a company, building a company, the ebb and flow of that experience. And then we came back to America. I went to work for a huge corporation called Cardinal Health. And it's a Fortune 15 company at the time of many billions in revenue, 60,000 plus employees. And I got put in their kind of sales management, track. All I've ever done is sales, and marketing. And so I did very well there. And then kind of 2 years into my career there, there was a big change in leadership and all that stuff. And I was asked to leave. I was fired. And so I thought it was the end of the world. Came home, looked my wife in the face and said, hey, I don't have a job, you know?
Surprise again.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe we should move back to Poland and kind of start something. Maybe I should think about like my network. Maybe I should go back to law school, et cetera. And then literally the next day, I got a guy that I went to college with called me and said, hey, we've got this startup called MemberClicks. We can't sell the software to save our life. Would you come take a look? And so I went and took a look, helped them kind of get it off the ground. And then 18 years later and many, many millions in revenue later and, hundreds of employees, we sold it to a strategic. I took over as CEO kind of 10 years before we sold it. Um, and ever since then, I've taken over for founders. And that's how I found myself here. I took over for 9 founders in the towing industry in a company called Tractera, helped them combine with another company. And then my former investors in Limberclicks were a minority investor in SingleOps, and they asked if I would come take a look. Fell in love with the green industry in general. SingleOps was more tree care focused than landscape focused. And looked at the thesis, and at the end of the day, our mission in life is to grow, software companies, or that's my mission, is to grow the software companies. And so, the landscape market is much larger than the tree care market and very underpenetrated still to this date, which is good. And so I said we can either build a software that works well for landscapers or we can buy it. Obviously, I chose the second one. And we bought LMN last year in October. And the reason why I love LMN so much in SingleOps is we serve small to mid-sized businesses. And I have a deep passion for small to mid-sized business entrepreneurs. And I think they're the heartbeat of our society. I think they're the fabric of our economy. And I think without small to mid-sized businesses, nothing really works very well in capitalism. And I'm a huge capitalist. And I absolutely adore the green industry. It's just such an incredible mix of humans that are hardworking, people focused, gracious. I've been welcomed into this community with open arms, and I'm terribly grateful to be in the position that I'm in. And we fast forward a year, we had LMN, SingleOps, and Greenius. And internally, we were really focused on creating one company, one team, one mission. And it led to, we need to restate who we are to the marketplace. And it's also very much in line with the green industry has a lot of players: Service Titan through Aspire, Workwave, Real Green, Explore, Service Autopilot, Boss, Jobber, etc. I think the one thing that we really wanted to make sure we said to the green industry is like, all those companies are awesome companies and they serve a really big purpose in the greater ecosystem of contractor-led businesses, because they really do focus on construction and home services. We focus on green. Mm-hmm. And so the launch of Granum, which the origin of the word Granum is seed in Latin, is designed in large part to say to this community, to you, we're here. This is where we're planting our roots, and we're not building for HVAC or roofers or electricians. Those are great, hardworking human beings, right? But we think the competition can build software for them. We're building for landscapers. We're building for arborists. We're building for irrigation specialists. We're building for snow and ice. And it doesn't matter if it's residential maintenance or commercial maintenance, design, build. We're building for the green industry. And that's our vision, is for Granum to become synonymous in the green industry. When people think about the tools that they need in order to succeed, a lot of our customers immediately go to like Caterpillar or John Deere, or like, I need a great skid steer or a ditch witch, or, you name it, bucket truck, crane. We really want them to think about Granum in that same breath. It's like, yeah, but if you really want to be successful, you need to implement a software platform like Granum. And that could be through our LMN platform, or SingleOps platform, or Greenius platform for education and development, tree or landscape. And I think ultimately they'll start to blend together into one kind of singular platform.
Awesome. AI has been a hot topic lately in the green industry.
What's that?
What's AI?
Yeah, exactly.
Will AI be integrated into the LMN platform, or really for any of the others, Greenius and SingleOps? But we're wanting to kind of focus a little bit more on the LMN side today. Will that be integrated in the near future, or is it maybe now that some users don't know about?
Well, I think most consumers don't realize they've been using AI for years and years and years. If you bought anything on Amazon or you've done a Google search, you're using AI, right? I think when most people are talking about AI today, they're talking about that consumer experience of like a Chat GPT companion. or Anthropic, whatever your GPT du jour is, your model is. And so in a lot of ways, yeah, AI is already at work in the platform. When we talk about route optimization, like those are algorithms that are at work based off of inputs and data, and it's collecting that data and spitting it out. But in relationship to the question that's being asked today and the consumer's experience with AI, like directly, yes, LMN will start to incorporate AI-centric functionality and features. And actually, our first AI rollout is happening in beta in the next 2 weeks, which is essentially a note prompt cleanup tool, i.e., a lot of our customers, their folks go out into the field. It could be an estimator, it could be somebody on the site. And you're dealing with elements, right? And so you want to be able to put notes in. It doesn't matter how you put them in or what language you put them in or whatever. But the people in the back office want them a certain way. Like, hey, format these notes on customer issues, gotchas, supplier issues, property issues, whatever it may be. And
The
so
formatting is so important.
that's right. And so there's no way to structure that, like dictate structure today in the platform. So the first AI tool that we'll roll out is a way for our customers to say, like, hey, whenever the notes get taken, streamline it into the structure once they hit submit. Right? And then that'll eventually evolve to they can just voice it into the phone and they can speak whatever language they want into the phone and it'll still do the notes in the appropriate structure and format. And so
I
that's
know you
kind
just made a lot of people really happy when you
of
mentioned the language, because that
right.
comes
Yeah.
up fairly often. We know we can put the app structure in a different language, but to translate the notes, you're going to make a lot of people cheer for that one.
Yeah. And so it's an iterative process. We'll roll out the structure first, then we'll bring out the language, and then we'll bring out the voice to text, which is how we like to do things. Like we like to start with the smallest thing and then build out from there. Because if you try and roll out the whole thing at once, it's guaranteed to have a bunch of bugs. It's also not what people really wanted. And we like to get our customers' feedback along the way versus like saying, here, this is it, it's done. And so that's really important. And that'll be the first experience. There'll be much more along the lines of that throughout the course of 2026. And, a data companion, the kind of experience that you've gotten used to anywhere you go now is like, hey, I'm your AI companion. Ask me anything. The trick to that, though, is you got to be really, really thoughtful about that AI companion because if it gets it wrong once, you're not going to use it. And so you're not going to trust it. And so I think Granum and LMN in particular is taking a very methodical approach to make sure we've got really good data that's piping through to the AI experience. We've got really organized structure so that the data that shows up can actually be acted upon because it's no good to source up data if you can't actually do anything with it. And so AI is one component of an overall strategy to improve the end-to-end experience for our customers, starting from how you consume a potential customer or prospect. And so building out a much more robust CRM experience where you can kind of manage that account, in a centralized way, communications, estimates, proposals, invoices, et cetera, all being centralized into a true CRM type tool. All the way to building your budget and your estimate, which we do pretty well. Like I would say the best in the industry for the type of customer we serve. To building that estimate into a proposal and then converting that proposal into an invoice and then getting paid and scheduling the job and managing the job. We think all of those are like key inflection points along our customers' journey with them. And we want to make each one of those inflection points, the moment they contact you to the moment they pay you, along that continuum, a much better experience. And so that's what we're focused on in 2026 is that end-to-end experience, dramatically improving it along the spectrum of your customer's experience. Because when I go visit people in the field, the feedback I always hear is like, well, we really like for you to change this. Why? Well, because like when I send it to my customer or when my customer gets it or when I have to manage a customer's expectations, it all revolves around in some way, shape, or form looking good for the customer, right? And so I think if we think about it that way from a development perspective and engineering perspective with like, how does this translate to the end end customer's experience, we'll build a much better platform for whether you're residential maintenance, design, build, commercial, snow or ice, like, it doesn't matter. It's like, just make this experience way better for that end customer. And if you do that, you'll probably end up with a lot better product, simpler to use, fewer clicks, easier to train new employees on, which is a constant, kind of thing in our customers' lives. And so I think the general theme in the platform is it'll get much simpler, much easier, much more powerful, and much more insightful in 2026.
We're ready for it.
We all are.
We're ready for it. Bring it. Happy to
So,
hear it.
so 2026 is going to be here in a month, less than a month, and then we're going to be right through that year. Is there anything that you would like to see the software progress to in the next 2 to 3 years? I know that's pretty far out and that's kind of
And
futuristic.
maybe it's not even something we're getting, but something that you're like, man, I would really like to do this, but it's just not on the table right now.
Oh, there's like a million things like that there. But like, I do think at the end of the day, the type of customer we focus on, the overwhelming majority of our customers are 15 million in revenue or less, right? And the overwhelming majority of our customers do some form of residential maintenance or residential design build. Like that's just who we serve, right? I would tell you, like, if folks could view the LMN platform as a true CRM platform over the next 2 years, like, oh, this is actually my like system of action. I can do everything with a customer's profile centrally. Like I can see all the communications, I can schedule their work, I can see all the invoices, I can get the communication history, I can communicate to the customer. Like if that becomes really powerful over the next 24 months, I think we will dramatically improve our customers' experience because I just see it over and over and over again. It's like what's happened is there's like really good like bits and pieces of the solution, but there's no like connective tissue all the way across, like to simplify our
Mhm.
customers' experience. And so
I think users would agree with you that there's a lot of disjointed or clunky components right now.
yeah, and I think the majority of that though, if you really distill it down, and this is kind of our job, right? When we go out and listen to customers and talk to customers, and you guys have seen us out in the field personally, is like what is everybody really asking for? Like if I had told you that everybody I went to was pounding the table and said, I really want a good CRM, that's not what they're asking. But that is actually what they're asking for. And so when I dig deeper and ask them like, well, what are you trying to like what are some of your biggest pain points? And centralized data, better reporting, better visibility, right? Easier to convert. Because to me, and a lot of your, viewers slash audience members will probably relate to this, is like an estimate and a proposal and an invoice is just a stage, right? But in our system today, they're treated as like three separate kind of like experiences. But to me, like that's all just a stage in their customer's life cycle with them, right? And in order to manage that well, like you need to have a strong CRM. It's like, okay, they're in the estimate stage. Let's convert this stage now to a proposal. Great. Like that everything seamlessly translates over. That gets recorded in the customer's activity and history. And then they've approved. Great. Let's make all that super easy for them. So like one of the things we're rolling out, this already rolled out in beta this quarter, was web proposals. It's like, okay, you don't have to download anything to PDF. You don't have to do anything. Just sign right on the screen. You can do it on your phone or your iPad or your desktop, whatever. And you can approve it. And then the next phase you'll be able to select and deselect services that you want and don't want, which is huge for like our kind of maintenance customers when they're selecting enhancements, etc. And just making that, and then now that's all been approved. Great, convert it now to a job. Like that's just a stage, like now they're in the job stage and need to be able to manage that and schedule it. And so I think if you think about it as like, this is just a customer's journey with our customer, like it gets a lot easier. And if the software starts to represent that in 2026, you'll know we've done a good job.
You've been out in the field, literally riding along, maybe even picking up a shovel. I don't know, but I know you've been out
Sure.
there with landscapers.
Yeah.
Um, what were some of the aha moments that you're like, oh, we need to solve this, or crap, I had no idea this was a pain point for them. Is there anything that you can think of that kind of came to mind or comes to
Yeah, I
mind?
mean, I think to me, like an area where I decided to point the gun from an investment perspective was we have to make the mobile application great. And so we've poured a ton of resources in there, and there's been a ton of things being rolled out in the mobile application. And it's just going to get better and better and better, especially when we think about like, you know, language synthesis and, that experience, right? The mobile experience is like really, really important because it's the connective tissue of the field to the office. And getting that connection really tight, which AI will help with, by the way, um, is really important. And so doing software for 20 plus years, my whole ethos is get out and meet with your customers and like actually see how they're using the platform. So the things that aren't surprising to me are like those things. It's like, hey, this is really hard to do this. Got it. Yep. I can see how that would be like, you're going to find 100 of those. And the only way you do that is, by the way, going out and getting in the truck and seeing how somebody's like, cramped on their iPad, um, et cetera. And so, I think those things are like kind of like easy things but the big aha moments are the areas where we're already investing heavy. Create a bit like a end-to-end experience for our customer's customer and make the mobile experience great, right? And there's a lot of stuff in that end-to-end experience. It's like heavy, like big stuff, right? And but like that's the stuff you got to focus in on. Like go back to basics, build the foundation. Once the foundation is strong, then you can do all kinds of like bells and whistles and trinkets and fireworks, from a feature and kind of razzle dazzle perspective.
Mark, kind
You,
of an ongoing criticism has been support. And we're talking about a lot of things that we're going to be getting, which are super exciting. And
Mm-hmm.
we definitely want to get them. How are we going to manage making sure that us as users are going to be fully aware of what's coming out
Yeah.
and be trained on that? And, it's been maybe a hyper criticism the last couple years of
Mm-hmm.
support, and it's an ongoing thing that is a growing concern. And for a lot of reasons. Not only new stuff, but existing things that current users aren't necessarily digging in and taking advantage of.
I mean, I think the good news there is like, I think customers always expect this like magical moment where everything is different.
Yes.
It's not how it works, right? And so like, it's like, it's not, I wish it was as like, kind of like transformational as like a backyard renovation. It's like, oh, it started off really bad. And then 9 months later, when we got the project done, it's like Disneyland. That's not what it's like with software. What software is like this like long marathon that never ends, right? And the question will be is like, does the race get easier for our customers every step of the way? And that's how I think about investing in the platform because we're making major investments in our infrastructure. Like I've shared that we've hired a bunch of engineers, a bunch of product people. And Sarah, the kind of idea is like, well, sheesh, if you're going to start rolling out a bunch of new stuff, especially iteratively, like small chunks, like regularly, like every 4 weeks, how are we going to get trained on that? Like, how are people going to know it's there? Well, that's part of like understanding how to run a software company for one. It's like, well, you need a big product marketing team to make sure that you're putting together all the materials and training and guides for how to use that stuff and then embedded in the app as well. You need a customer success initiative that's paired in tandem with that product marketing team that's like, oh, we need to have webinars and training for all this new stuff that's coming out, like set up and communicated to our customers. The support team has to be trained and equipped to answer how to and why questions. You need more of those people, which we've been investing heavily in. We've hired more support and success people over the last 6 months to build out that team. And then I think what folks will feel over a course of time, which I know like we're getting a lot of feedback that they do feel it already, which is good, which is, wow, we are getting new features and functionality in key areas where we've given you feedback. Thank you. It is easier to get a hold of people when we call now. Like, thank you, right? And the training and webinar stuff that we're seeing, like you see adoptions and utilization rates, it's slowly going up and to the right, which is what you want to see, right? But all that stuff is just like a methodical march to a finish line that never finishes, right? And so, and in order to be good at software, the customers just need to feel like the race is getting easier and easier and easier and easier. There's never this moment as well, like, oh shit, it's done. You guys did it. Like it's all over now. Like, no, like, cause 12 months from now, there's going to be something else. And 12 months from now, there's going to be something else. And 12 months from now, there's going to be something else. Like that's the thing that you learn to kind of fall in love with software.
I guess you could say it's a love-hate for your users because we want that finish line as a user, but I totally agree with you. You're always just like in life, you're always learning, same as the software. And I
Right.
think it's easy for us as users to get our tunnel vision, like, hey, I come in and this is what I do. I do this, and then all of a sudden, 6 months after a button's been there, I realize, hey, that button might help me out.
Exactly. Or where did this come from?
Oh, it's been there a year. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to switch gears back to the tech, and you were talking about like, working with an iPad, like out inside the field in the truck or whatever. One of the users actually asked that I mentioned to you, and it was is they want to know if there's a way to get the Crew app on Apple CarPlay for inside their trucks. And I thought that was a great idea. I was like, that is really cool.
So get the actual app presenting in their truck so they can leverage it there. Yeah,
Yes.
that's an interesting idea. And part of me like chagrins with the liability of that concept,
Uh,
but if you're parked, I could see that being like a good thing. But yeah, like those are the types of ideas that, for example, like if you were out in the field and you saw somebody messing with their iPhone, it'd be easier if I could just go hands free and do it through the CarPlay experience of Apple, right? So yeah, I welcome all those ideas. We have this whole thing called product board, and people submit ideas. Well, we have a whole team that reviews those. We have a very large product management team now, which is really important to building a good product. Is a bunch of people thinking about and listening to and going out and talking to our customers because it's not just me that's going out to talk to customers. That's the last thing you want is just the CEO going out and talking to folks. But you guys actually met Andrew. He's our head
yeah.
of product. But we also have a lot of team members that are going out and meeting with customers that are running point on key areas of the platform, and they're spending a lot of time with our customers, seeing how they use those particular areas of our platform. So
I love
that
that.
type of that
And,
type of feedback is like important. It informs us.
and I saw some of the team just literally, if they're in the area, just popping in, for a few hours here or there and just
That's
visiting
right.
with some of the users. So that's awesome.
Yeah, it's really important to us.
Um, Question I have, okay. Where do you see the landscape industry heading in terms of tech adoption, realistically, though? Do you think that they're moving as fast or fast forward as much as what they should be? Should they be really embracing it much more than what they are? We hear a lot at some of these industry events that we're going to that like if you're not leveraging that and whatnot, you're going to be like behind the eight ball and you're going to be slowing your company down for growth and also for value of your business.
Yeah, so I always steer clear of shoulds. Like I learned in life, like when you say to somebody should, it can come across as a little a lack of understanding of what that person potentially is going through, right? And so I think about tech adoption as a curve versus like a linear line, right? And so do I think landscape companies can benefit by adopting technology faster? Yeah. But I think that's true of almost any company, right? Do I think people get to software when they're ready? Yeah, I do. Like forcing them into that faster, I think it probably ends up backfiring. I've learned that in my career. Like we have over 5,000 customers on our platforms, right? But thousands of customers have left our platforms as well over that period of time. One of the most vexing things as a software CEO is like, God, why? Why did they leave? Like, why did they go through the process of because they weren't ready, right? And it's because they went to an event or they got advice or they were talking to one of their buddies or, they were in a peer group. And I think all those things are awesome, by the way. Like they exist for a reason, but they weren't personally ready to take that dive, right? And of course, there's also like, well, they may have been oversold, right? We take responsibility for that part. And the product didn't do exactly what you needed them to do. But I think in general, people come to technology when they're supposed to. And the moment you try and force people to adopt technology is typically where you're going to fail to launch type of experience. And so I think folks, I think if your business would definitely benefit from adopting technology if you're ready to adopt technology. Your business would benefit from adopting technology if, in fact, you're looking for more efficiency, if, in fact, you're looking for more organization, if you're looking for more systemization of your business. If you're perfectly happy running a business that makes $500,000 a year and you really enjoy doing the work and you don't intend on growing and like you did this because you didn't want to leverage technology, you just wanted to be outside and like more power to you, brother or sister. Like do that. Like that's okay. But for companies that are like, no, I want to grow. And I have an intended goal of actually exiting this business to somebody else one day. Yeah, you should probably start really thinking about how can technology maximize my exit, make my operation more efficient, and unlever me, right, to be more impactful throughout the organization.
I think that's what led us to a robust system, LMN,
Yeah,
because in our own operations, we were very much chained to the business. Even just like running payroll, getting invoicing out, running to the mailbox every day at the time. Like
right.
we were very much chained to the business and didn't have much life outside of that and needed a solution. We were approaching or right at $1 million at the time, and there were just too many moving parts for us to manage the way we had been. So we had to find an alternative. Luckily, we had already had LMN for estimating and budgeting only, because at that time that was an option,
Yep.
and looked at it to fill the rest of our needs. And it was we went to actually a 2-day class in Nashville, Tennessee at the time, and really explored what the system can do. Went home and said, you know what, this is going to solve our problems, but only if we all go all in with it. Because like you said,
Rolling
Mark,
up our
if
sleeves.
Right. Yeah.
we knew that if we don't really feed and pour into it, it's not going to solve. We're going to be right back chasing our tail, right back having the same frustration. So we were ready. We had enough pain in our life that we were ready for it, but our team was as well. So we were all ready to go in together on this endeavor and streamline things and open our eyes to a lot of things that we didn't see without this tool that we now are making use of.
Yeah. I think Sarah that nails it. It's like the people that are the most frustrated with any software that I've ever built over the years end up being the people who are trying to recreate the same manual processes in the software itself and are really don't want to change, right? Like those are the people that are typically the most frustrated with software.
They're
No,
fighting it. I call that
that's right.
fighting it. You're fighting the
Yeah.
system.
Yeah. But also too, like I always remind customers, it's like, why did you recreate the same process you had before? Like, because you sought out software because it wasn't working to begin with. Like just putting that process into a different like container doesn't make it better, right? It's like most people need to understand, and this is what I mean by when you're ready, you have to adapt your business to the software, not the software to the business. That's the only way software will make your business more efficient is like, hey, especially because most people don't really like they don't do the equation of like, oh, this is an off the shelf software. Like, I'm not customizing this for you. Like, this is the same software everybody uses. And the reason why that's highly beneficial is like we've learned a ton of lessons over thousands of customers' experiences. Like this is kind of the like most efficient way to do this, right? And so now people will argue with that, and a lot of times software companies get it wrong. We've gotten it wrong in certain areas for sure, and like we constantly seek to. That's why I say it's a marathon that never ends. You got to keep seeking feedback to make it better. But most people that are very successful with like software and the customers that sing our praises the loudest, like I've dug in and looked at this, it's like yeah, it's because you've built your business operations around the software, not the software around your business operations. And so, and they know the shortcomings. It's like, yeah, I know. Like, so I don't do that. I'm not going to try and force it to do that. Like, so I don't do that. Right. And it's like, okay, good, great. That's smart. And by the way, it's the same for me. Like, we have a lot of software in our company. But I can tell you right now, I've built my entire sales and marketing organization around Salesforce. There is no other way. Like, because it's the main platform for how I leverage my go-to-market strategy. Like, how do you sell? How do you market? How do you track? How do you attribute? Like, how do you connect? How does the customer go from quote to cash? Salesforce. And so my entire organization, for the most part, is built around the way Salesforce works.
I find it
And go ahead.
I find it so interesting because whenever I'm engaging with a company, if someone reaches out and says, "Hey, can you come help us really put our element to use for us?" And a lot of those nowadays are brand new to LMN. They're
Hmm.
just finishing their onboarding. And I always tell them, hey, we're going to translate what you're doing as a company into the software. I really look at it as I don't want you to change what you're doing unless what you're doing is not working.
Right.
Because this is opportunity to change that then. So when I'm working on onboarding a company or a company that's had it for a decade and just really refocusing on utilizing this tool, I say we're going to take what you're doing and translate it into the software. And I think what I'm missing out on is that second part of how you say, you're going to in my head, then you kick in, like you said, of the you're going to change what you do as a business. And we very much found that with ourselves too. Like we don't mow anymore. Now
Hmm.
it was a while. We didn't go from A to B, just
Sure.
overnight, but
Right.
the software helped us really see where we were making money, where we were absolutely might as well lit money on fire at the time we transitioned over, and really over the course of time dial into where we were profitable and what made sense for us as a company. So by using that tool and translating what we did as a company, it showed us what we were doing wasn't necessarily working. In some places it was, in some places
Right.
it wasn't.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the other, like, to take that to the next level, it's like, just because this is how you've done your scheduling before, like that doesn't mean, like, and that's what I mean is a lot of people try and shoehorn the way they've done things operationally, like the tactical stuff, to say like, oh, well, we want to do it this way, and we want the invoice to look this way, and we
Oh,
want it
very
to go out
much.
X, Y. Like it's like,
They're very
okay,
particular about that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, which I totally and I deeply appreciate. It's like I get it, but if you want to go to a software that gives you efficiency across your entire operation, there's going to be little trade-offs along the way. And I really have stressed to our sales team, and by the way, our retention's gotten better, and onboarding is the single most critical juncture in any software journey, by the way. But I've really stressed our sales team. It's like, you've got to understand there's going to be trade-offs along the way. Like,
Hmm.
there's, you have to see the bigger picture of the beneficial value that we're bringing across the board, not, in one on, more like these little point, in time across your operation. And so I think that's like the key thing. Like, this is a really long answer, by the way, Adam, to your question. It's like, do it. And then the second part of your question is like, hey, I think people should adopt technology as they see fit and as they're ready. Do I think the landscaping industry in general is adopting it fast enough? I would say yes, now, today. It's probably been a laggard up to this point, but it's not just landscaping. It's kind of, I would say, home services, contractor, construction, kind of the, contractor based businesses were slower to uptake technology. But now it's like rapidly changing, both in terms of software utilization, but also in terms of autonomous mowing and thinking through how to create an agentic experience for the day-to-day operations and stuff. Like, I actually think our customers are asking us really interesting questions, and I think our prospects are very eager. I mean, we had our best year on a combined basis ever in the history of the company. So that tells me that people are really adopting technology at a higher level. And that, for me, I would say then that tells me that both the tooling and the appetite are there now, right? And some people might make the argument the tooling's been there for a while, but I would say it's probably just now starting to get to a point where it's like really usable and leverageable and easier to adopt. Okay.
I think so.
Sarah,
You
anything else
meant,
that you want to
yeah, Mark
offer
mentioned
up?
earlier, the system's not this is the system, it's out of the box. But I think that there's so many nooks and crannies in there that allow us to customize it that that's a double-edged sword. It's awesome because we can do it how we want to do it and what works well for us. But at the same time, that's a big hurdle for onboarding, I think, for a lot of people is how do I make it do what I want to do? Because there are so many nooks and crannies and so many ways I can customize it. It can get overwhelming. So
Sure.
how do we combat that as a software company for users like us?
I mean, I do think that part of our process and streamlining and creating a stronger, more fortified foundation, the simplification process will remove some of the crooks and crannies, to use your term, right?
Nooks and crannies or
Yeah, yeah.
options? Because if you're going to take away my options, I might get a little nervous.
Most people will. And so I think what the important part of that is are we actually building it based off of the feedback of customers that optimizes an experience versus, is detrimental to an experience, right? And so the hardest thing about software, is A, getting people to adopt it up front, but also B, getting our customers to adopt all the new stuff that we bring to the table. Like that's the hard, like that's really hard actually. Because once you get the software going and you're using it, it's kind of like I don't want to mess with this. You know what I mean? It was
Mhm.
such a painful process to get it to this point. And there's a famous like quote that one of our customers sent us, I don't know, maybe 2 years ago that I was like, yep, that's it right there in a nutshell. It's like your software sucks, but whatever you do, don't change it.
That is great.
It's perfect, right? It's like, God, dude, I know exactly how you feel, right? It's like, you know, I've gotten so used to how to leverage this the way it is. If you change
Mhm.
it, my life is ruined forever. It's like, I totally get it. I think, we'll continue to be super thoughtful about that, right? And that's the challenge, and that's why you do small little iterative changes versus these big changes, right? It's like, hey, we made it a lot easier for you to convert your estimate to a proposal. Check it out, and if you like this process better, do it, adopt it. We made it a lot easier for your customers to pay you, and we'll keep making it easier. Check it out. Hit the pay now button instead of going through 9 clicks and sending them a PDF on how to get to the payment portal and all that good stuff, right? And so I think there is going to be like an overwhelming amount of like, thank you for changing that. That's so great. You listened. And then there's going to be like 10% like, oh, I can't believe you changed this. Like,
Because
um,
we get in our comfort zones, you know?
yeah, it's like a kitchen redo. It's like, hey, I know what you really want is a bigger kitchen, because you want to put all this cool stuff in, but that means you're going to have to switch from a gas stove to an infrared because it just won't work, with the new. And you're like, no, I've cooked with gas my whole life. I'm not switching to an infrared. It's like, well, you're really focused on this one thing versus like the really big picture. You just got an incredible new kitchen that's going to improve your life significantly. But yeah, but I don't have a gas stove, And so it's like, I
Yeah.
get it, but like, and there'll be that for a lot of folks. It's like, yeah, my gas stove's gone. I'm not happy. And then there'll be people that are like, oh my God, look at this kitchen. This is great. So that's just the way it goes, software.
I love that quote, the famous quote of your software sucks, but don't change it. I love that it came from a customer
100%.
and
Yeah.
that it stuck with you. But I think they bring up a really, really good point that we are ingrained in LMN as users. So when you go into a software, especially one like LMN or SingleOps, when you're using Greenius, you're really entrenched in it, and a lot of your company information is tied to it. So for us to change, it would take a lot. It really would. So we are very much attached to Element as users. Of course, we like the software, but should we ever want to change, or should something happen,
Right.
like if Element shut down tomorrow, we'd be in a bad way. What can users do to kind of insulate themselves? We should always kind of game plan the what ifs for our companies. If one of those what ifs is what happens if Element goes away tomorrow, what we do?
Sheesh. I don't really like thinking about negative possibilities, Sarah. Like I'm a
I
CEO.
know, but we could
I'm
like
an optimist, but no, your point's well made. It's like I think the
and it
easy answer to that though, Sarah, is kind of what I said before. It's like, have you over engineered all your processes to where they can't be replicated and systemized in a simple way? And if you have, that's probably a good sign for you to say, like, I need to think this through. Because if LMN did go away, how would we replicate onboarding a new customer and building an estimate for them and then converting that to a paid account, right? It's like, what would it take? And I think that's good, you know, catastrophe planning, right?
Hmm.
You know, LMN going away is like a very, very, very long shot, you know, like possibility. We're highly profitable. We're backed by huge investors. And so I think that's the good news. But like, could LMN go down? Sure, it did. It went down for 4 hours, you know, earlier this year. And so that probably created like a really negative environment. I spent a lot of time with customers like saying, I'm sorry, you know, because I know how important LMN is to the day-to-day operations of our businesses, right? And so I think the place I would start is kind of where we started in the beginning is like of this conversation about technology adoption. Look at your processes. What can be replicated? What cannot be replicated? If it can't be replicated, why? Right. And then identify like an escape hatch for those processes.
You know,
I,
data
one,
is,
but one thing you said though, Sarah, that I do think is interesting is the biggest thing that we have to fix at LMN is actually adoption and utilization. Because across our customers, it's very like specific what customers use and don't use. Like, you know, from a firmographic perspective, right? It's like if you look at the data across all customers, it became pretty clear to us once we put the tooling in place to like see how our customers were using the product, where they were dropping off, what they use and what they don't use, and why. It became pretty clear to us, like, oh, this is why. Like, we need to make it better and easier for our customers to adopt the platform all the way through. And so a lot of customers actually don't use us for everything. They use us for very specific things. And, you know, my job is to change that. Our job is to change that. Because if you go talk to those customers, which we have, they desperately want to use us for everything because it would just make their life easier. And that's the whole point of the small to mid-sized market is like, I don't want 5 to 10 different software tools to do, you know, what one should be able to do at the 80th percentile. Right. And so that's kind of our mission right now is like to make it to where it's a platform that people want to use all the way from start to finish. And
Mark, thanks
let's
for
do
your
it.
time.
of course, thank you.
Appreciate
I
it.
really appreciate it. Yeah. You guys
One
are
more,
awesome.
one more 1 minute question. This is totally off the wall, but it's going to be fun.
Okay. All
If
right.
you had to pick to be one superhero, who would you pick and why?
Superpower or
A
an actual
superhero.
hero?
Yeah, an actual
Yeah.
hero.
Hmm.
The irony in that is that the LMN support your
I know
staff used to be,
they used to have
yeah.
these superhero personas. I've been told over and over again about that.
That
So
was so much fun.
How about a superpower?
I've thought a lot about superpower. I haven't thought a lot about a specific superhero. So I'll do both. The ability to heal, like I like that concept, you know, or time travel. I do like that as well. So maybe Dr. Whatever that guy's name is, Strangelove, or whatever the kind of guy is that can do time travel. Um, and then like it kind of feels like Superman would be the best superhero to be because he can do almost everything, right?
Right?
So I do like dexterity. I like people who can do like the Swiss Army knife type feel of person. It's like you're not just like a, you know, one trick pony. So I think Superman because he can do a lot of stuff.
All right.
Yeah.
Good enough.
Yeah, for
Mark, thanks
sure.
again for your time. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
And we will keep in touch and hopefully maybe we can do this again in 6 months or a year. Can I get another update?
Yeah, for sure. You can hold me accountable to the changes.
All right.
Always
Take
good
care,
to hang
Mark.
out.
All right.
All right. Take care.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.